Welcome to Brain Wrestling. My name is Derek Christopher. Of course, I'm here with Walter Jacobson. Walter, always great to see you.
Likewise, sir.
Now, Walter, let me ask you something. I'm sure you've had somebody close to you who's died.
Yes.
Now, would you ever think that you have such a hard time letting them go that you'd want to keep them in your house to keep the body in your house for 2 months after they passed?
Man, I've heard stories about that, and that's incredibly morbid and a little bit, come on.
So, this is what Lisa Marie Presley did at her house in Calabasas, is that the son died of, I think it was suicide,
That's
and
right.
she couldn't let go. So in California, there are no laws about what you have to do with the body, about when you have to bury the body. So she kept her son's body in her house in a bedroom for 2 months on dry ice and kept the room at 55 degrees. And apparently she would go tend to him every day. She would go talk to him. And this was her way of dealing with it, which to me, it seems that that would be much harder to have a dead body in the room next door to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the time to stop doing that is when the neighbors start complaining. The smell's got to be pretty bad at some point. But the dry ice, I guess, helps with that. No, this is not a way of dealing or coping with bereavement or loss. This is a pathological way of dealing with it. It's delusional and, unfortunate that somebody didn't tell her, hey, you need to move on. You got to find another way to grieve.
Well, it's funny because she said that she finally let him go because the dead body, keep in mind, gave her the vibe that it was time for him to go.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, well, that's the thing about magical thinking is if you're going to once you get into magical thinking, then everybody's talking to you. Everyone's got a point of view. It could be a dead grandma or whatever. So, but that's really sad that nobody said to her, "Come on, why didn't he give you a vibe to leave sooner? Why did he have to wait 2 months?"
Well, there's got to be, you think that there'd be somebody in her family. Her daughter was fine with it too. You think that there would be a grievance counselor or somebody that would say, she and her daughter wanted to get a tattoo similar to the one that the son had. And I guess the tattoo artist came to the house and the tattoo artist said, well, do you have a picture? And they said, well, we've got something better. We've got the body. So they took the tattoo artist into the room with the dead body to show him the tattoo they wanted.
That is so wacky, man. That is
It's
really crazy.
but okay, as a doctor, I mean, when does the body start decomposing? Even if you've gone through all the routines and whatnot, and the room is 55 degrees and you're on dry ice, doesn't it start decomposing?
I'm. This is not my area, but I thought rigor mortis sets in after like a day or something, hours, and then at that point, yes, everything stops. No more processes, so everything starts decaying, and the maggots start laying eggs and everything. It's
Rigor
bad.
mortis sets into about 10 minutes into the show for me, but that's only part of me.
I hear
But
you.
but it's amazing. You would think that if you knew somebody and they said, well, I'm keeping my dead aunt, son, daughter, whatever, wouldn't you think that that person has some severe mental issues? I mean, I understand it's tough to let go. We've all lost people close to us in our lives, but to me, it just seems very, very unhealthy. And it's just a physical being. It's not that the actual person is there,
Right. Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
So what this implies is that there was an overly dependent relationship going on here, or codependent relationship that she had with her son, which was beyond motherhood. She had a very codependent deal where he was providing her with a whole lot of feeling safe and secure in her
Yeah.
life. And so when he's gone and she has no safety net to feel safe and secure, the dead body is just like a symbol of him that makes her feel safe.
What would be weirder now if because they're talking about AI taking on personalities and whatnot. If you let's say somebody who was really close to you passed away and you had the option to have an AI instead of Alexa, you had an AI of this person who you loved so much available to talk to anytime. There's no body, there's nothing physical there, but you could actually talk to the person and it would have their personality and it would have their voice. Is that healthy or is that kind of the same thing? Because
Well, it's the
the person
same
really doesn't
thing.
exist. Huh?
Look, it's Tony Perkins in Psycho, right?
Yeah.
His mother's up there, right, in a shawl and bones, and he's got a relationship going on with her, love hate, as it were. But no, this is pathological. This is sad. This is not appropriate.
Even if it's AI, if it's like talking to the person as if they're there.
Well, but they're not there. So what you're doing is really you're enabling and supporting, a false relationship. Now, one might say, ignorance is bliss, and if this gets you through the night, so what? And I would say, yeah, okay, if that does
Yeah.
get you through the night, that's fine. But you're not going to label that normal. You're that's on an aberrant response. But look, that's where it's all going now. Did you see
Yeah.
this Optimus robot from that's making drinks and checking IDs? And
Yeah.
talking back and forth. And they're going to be able to water the lawn and do the dishes.
But that's different. Those are tasks. But when you take on somebody's personality,
But
like,
that's the next step. The next step
yeah,
is you're going to start talking to Alexis in the form of your AI robot, and you're going to start having relationships and sex and all sorts of stuff.
I was just going to say, what happens when you start having relationships with it? Is that odd, or is that going to be normal?
That's going to be normal because people aren't going to leave their pod. Their house is going to be a pod, right? They're going
Yeah.
to be hooked into it with all their, social media. That's how they relate, and the video games and everything. And they're going to be plugged into these sex robots.
But what does it say for somebody if they want a spouse that's a robot, but the spouse thinks like the way they want to do, does the things they want to do, has sex whenever they want to do? How do you grow then? How does a person actually evolve and grow if the person that you're with is just giving you everything? There's a Twilight Zone episode like this where the guy gets everything he wants.
Well, you got to worry if your sex robot partner like starts stepping out on you. I mean, that's not going to be
Yeah.
great.
Well, does that eventually happen?
Why not? I mean, once
Yeah.
they figure out that you're a dud, where they're going to go? That's it. Now, you got nothing else to talk about but that all the
Now,
time.
you know who needs a sex robot, I think, is Gene Simmons, because Gene Simmons, of course, famous for having slept with over 5,000 women, supposedly.
And 5,000 chickens also, right?
Yeah,
No.
but, well, clocks, maybe. But I've seen Gene backstage. I mean, chicks love Gene Simmons. I mean, he'll go up and he'll shove his tongue in their mouth and they love it. It's crazy. But I want to ask you, he was on Dancing with the Stars last week. And apparently, he was making comments about how the women were beautiful and they were hot. And he was addressing some of their physical attributes as opposed to just their dancing. And the internet went shit crazy. He's a creepy old man. They should get rid of him. They should cancel Gene Simmons. What the fuck? When you get Gene Simmons, what the fuck do you expect him to do?
But did he brag about that they let me touch their pussy?
No, no, that's a
That's the
different
other
person.
guy. That's the
That's
other
the
guy.
other guy. But you know what? What amazes me is that, Dancing with the Stars is on ABC. Now, this is a network that has given us The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, a show called Are You Hot? They gave us Extreme Makeover, Plastic Surgery Edition. They had a game show called Are You something like Are You Good Enough to Be on a Japanese Game Show? People are offended that Gene Simmons is saying this nonsense. Look what the fuck ABC has put out there.
It's ridiculous. I saw some movie the other day where this woman was really hot and the guy was staring at her and she said, you shouldn't stare at me like that. And he said,
Yeah.
you shouldn't look like that. It was like, great. It's like, what do you expect in a world? If somebody has features and you mention that makes you like an asshole. It's ridiculous.
Well, but it's funny because I asked people, I said, if you go up to somebody and you say you're hot, is that offensive now?
I would think women would like that idea that they have a physicality, a sensuality, an attractiveness. But who knows these days? I mean, if you're single and you're a cat lady, maybe.
Now, have you ever looked at somebody and just thought, wow, she's really attractive, and thought, I'd like to tell that woman she's beautiful, and then she'll probably have you arrested.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, definitely, I've had those thoughts that these beautiful women are in front of me, and yeah, you do have a natural impulse to want to say, "Wow, you really are, you're really beautiful or hot and what." But no, these days it's dangerous territory. You have no idea. Hey, I heard a story where this guy. This woman was in college and this guy like pinched her butt, right?
Yeah.
Which not a great thing to do, but she turned around, kicked him in the balls, and then like smacked him in the face and like wiped him out. It's like, hey, he was just a jerk. What are you doing? No, overreaction, don't you think?
See, now I took it when you pinched my butt when we went out for dinner. I took it as a compliment.
That didn't happen.
But if it had been reversed, if it had been a woman and it was a hunky guy, and she had said, "Oh, look at those pecs, and you're really hunky," and blah blah blah, would anybody have said anything?
Probably not. There is a double standard there, but I mean, women go to the Magic Mike shows, right, and
Yeah.
stick dollars in their pants and rub against them. I mean, this is human nature. Look, it's the same idea that we're going too far with being sensitive about other people's feelings. I mean, people, it's ridiculous. Let people be.
But is it how people are wired? I don't know why you can't say that men and women are wired differently. Wired differently.
You can. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
Yeah. And it's why are people holding why can't we say that? Why can't people just acknowledge men are different? Men are, I think, they are more animalistic, and maybe that's more important to them. That doesn't mean that they're bad people.
No, it doesn't. And what people forget is that most of the stuff that we're complaining about is ancient, primordial, primitive,
Yeah.
subconscious instincts and things, right? I mean, because it was way back at the beginning, survival was about procreation, and procreation was about sex, and sex was about attractability, and so that's how it works. We're turned on to somebody. Underneath it all is the primal need to procreate. People don't realize that.
But what happens when you start blending genders, or genders don't exist and you can't procreate? Where does that take us then?
Right to the end of the line. Right.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Is it? Now, I don't know if you saw this. I'm going to go completely a different direction here now. There's a UCLA professor, PhD in astrophysics, that is now homeless because he's a full-time professor. He teaches 6 courses during the academic year. He cannot afford an apartment in Los Angeles. He teaches at UCLA. He gets $70,000 a year salary. He went to the department head, asked for more money. They wouldn't give it to him. So he started a GoFundMe trying to raise $100,000 so he can actually get an apartment and live in Los Angeles to teach. $70,000, probably anywhere else in the country, people would be like, that's amazing.
Right.
In Los Angeles, when your rents are $3,000-$4,000 a month for, a single, what do you do? Now, why is it that a professor at UCLA teaching astrophysics can't even afford to live in the city that he teaches in?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's most unfortunate, but definitely you've pointed out what the problem is. The problem is that these outrageous rental costs here in California. If this guy were to go to Bisbee, Arizona, he'd get a mansion for like $22,000 or something. Here you can't even get a closet. So it's where we live.
Well, what I don't understand is he says that he gets paid about half what other astrophysics teachers get paid in California. So it's like, well, why would UCLA pay so low compared to everybody else? And then why not go to another college? If you can get double your money and live in a cheaper city, why wouldn't you?
Well, absolutely. Well, people do have reasons that sometimes family keeps them in certain states and locales, but I agree. Most people are into inertia. Like you don't want, change is not something they're comfortable doing. So even though they got a shitty deal, they're afraid if they make a change, then the deal in the future could be worse than what they got. So I better be grateful for what I got, even though I don't like it.
Yeah, but what does it say for people who want to be teachers that they go, I can't even afford to rent an apartment if this is what I want to do for a living? And teaching is a very noble profession. I mean, we need more teachers. We need better teachers.
Well,
And the fact that
let's focus on the latter part. We need like normal teachers, okay? Not psycho teachers who want to indoctrinate our kids. But yes.
Yeah, you know what? You said this early on, and I sort of pushed against it, but now I'm agreeing with you that I do think a lot of these university professors do try to indoctrinate their kids as far as gender, the way society is, the way the world should be, the way politics is, and it's really, really dangerous.
Oh yeah, as a perfect example is these people that these professors have indoctrinated are waving signs saying we're with Hamas. Well, what?
Yeah.
I don't care what you think of the Palestine situation. Where with Hamas is completely psycho.
Bill Maher just did a piece on it that was fantastic, where he said he sees all these influencers, especially on TikTok, which is owned by a Chinese conglomerate. So obviously TikTok has influence and is trying to push, the narrative into a certain direction. But a lot of these influencers have no idea what the history of the Jewish people are, what the history of Israel is, and what happened. And the fact that they promote Hamas and Hezbollah and they think that it's okay. I mean, there's nothing worse than ignorance when it comes to having an opinion on anything.
Yeah, yeah. And so you may, Trump actually had a good line the other day, I thought, and he said, the end of the end of democracy is stupid people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, as much as we've gone back and forth on the Democrats and the Republicans, this is one of the things that I think the Democrats are very dangerous about, which is, they try to normalize this kind of behavior, and they try to normalize being uneducated and uninformed and pushing the wrong side as opposed to pushing the right side and what's best for people and what's best for humanity.
Yeah, and they also, the Democrats also don't like people dissenting against the government position, which is contrary to the Constitution and what America stands for. They don't want people, if the government says, these vaccines are good for you, they're going to put people in jail if people want to like challenge that.
Why do media tech companies go along with it? Why does a Zuckerberg bend over and take it up the ass for the Democrats and say, I'm going to push the message, the narrative that you want me to push, as opposed to saying, hey, fuck off. It's my company. It's a private company. I can do what I want with it, and I'm not going to kiss your ass. I mean, Zuckerberg, I think, is big enough and powerful enough. He could have told them to go fuck themselves
Okay.
and done what he wanted.
Okay. What happened with him is his mommy didn't love him enough. I'm joking around, but on some
Yeah,
level,
no.
the guy has incredible insecurity that would make him want to get the approval of these other people. I mean, that's also what happened with Facebook starting up in the first place, right? He was jilted by some
Yeah.
woman, and he was so upset and insecure about it, he had to like lash out and then create some scenario which made him look important. So a lot of insecurity and ego there.
But you know what? On the other side, Elon Musk is doing the exact same thing. I mean, this guy's being a little bitch to Trump, and he's bending over and he's censoring things on the other side, and he's making X into a right wing platform.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I mean, the guy said he bought Twitter so that it would be fair
Free
and
speech.
balanced,
Yeah.
and now right, and now it's all skewed again, and you go on there and it's mostly like it seems like conservative right wingers are talking to each other.
Do you think it's power? Do you think because he's become so meshed with Trump that he's seeing an opportunity to get more power down the line, and he's going to just connect with Trump, and he's going to try to go all the way past the finish line with him? But if Trump doesn't get elected, what's he going to do? I mean, he even
Well,
said he's fucked.
well, I don't think they're going to put him in jail if
No, they're
Trump
not going to put him
doesn't
in
win.
jail.
What?
They're not going to put him in
No,
jail.
they're not going to put him in jail. No, but I think this is about attention. When you have so much money and power, really it comes down to attention. This guy seems to be actually pretty immature. He may be
Yeah.
brilliant in certain ways. I think he's really a better businessman. Someone told me he didn't invent anything, but he's just a really good businessman. And he found these companies and then he turned them around. But yeah, he's
That's pretty much what
immature.
Steve Jobs did.
Yeah, they both stole from IBM.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're but he's immature, and so I think that's the problem. Is so now Trump is making him like giddy, like a little schoolboy. Oh, and I'm looking at all the attention I'm getting, and on Twitter too, he makes all these comments like all the time. It's like bizarre. Like, don't you have anything
Yeah.
better to do?
Wait, do you have any question that Elon's on the spectrum?
I think he is.
He's totally on the spectrum.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And he behaves that way, and he's sticking his dick in anybody that he can, and he's having these children, and the children, I think that one of his children, I think, is non-binary or is gender fluid or some bullshit. I don't know what the fuck.
Well, yeah, it's the sign of the times. But yeah, I think he does actually he is in charge of a lot of companies that are doing good. But there is again something wrong with him. His mother didn't love him enough. He didn't get enough attention. He needs more. Ego is so huge in these people. It's
But
unbelievable, and they think they're righteous and right.
this is what we've talked about before. If people would just stick to what they're good at, Elon Musk, great at inventing, great at marketing, great at putting things out there, great at changing the world, great at the rockets, the missile, all that stuff. He's great. But if he just stuck to economics and talked about the economy and jobs and whatnot, he'd be fine. Everybody needs to be fucking great about everything, and that's where you start falling apart.
Well, I think you're right, and I think if Trump could lose, it's so tight now. Who knows? But if he does lose, I think it's his own fault because of what you've pointed out. If he would just keep his mouth shut and stop
Yeah.
saying incredibly absurd and offensive things and stuck to like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I think he'd go over the finish line. But he creates so much hatred in people by saying these preposterous and
Yeah.
statements. It's crazy.
Well, and the stuff that he says about the immigrants and everybody coming in here, I mean, there are elements, and you can disagree with me when he starts talking about genes and the population. It's very sort of Germany World War II like
Well,
that. We got to sort of cleanse the population of these
that
bad
was
genes.
very, yes, that was very unfortunate that he says, yeah, it's in, they're bringing in criminals and it's in their genes. And you're right, that does have a reference to Nazis and this whole
Yeah.
genetic racial thing. So again, that's a perfect example of something that gives the media an opportunity to jump on it and jump on him and show everybody what a demented person he is. So it's really stupid. But and I'm sure people have told him not to do it, but that's also his
Yeah.
own personal arrogance. That, hey, I'm me. I do everything. I get away with everything. So shut the fuck up.
Well, but you know what? He's gotten away with everything for 70 years. So why would he think he has to change anything?
Exactly. But however, now the biggest job on the planet, it might be
Yeah.
wise to bring it down a little. But
Well,
no.
so speaking of changing, did you see what Toyota did? Now, Toyota was coming up with all these DEI policies and everything, and now they've completely pulled back on it because they were exposed. Listen to this. This was an activist and filmmaker, Robbie Starbuck, detailed several woke initiatives within the company, including funding groups that oppose laws to ban gender transition treatments on minors, then forming an employee resource group divided by race and gender orientation. And then Toyota was going to sponsor a drag queen program at summer camp for kids. Now, all of a sudden, that they've been exposed, they're pulling back on it.
Well, absolutely. This is the Bud Light phenomenon. I mean, they thought they were like doing something cool behind everyone's back, and then once it was discovered, it's like, yeah, now they've got this incredible outrage and cancel Toyota. So now they're making the money decision, which is,
Yeah.
retract what we did.
They said that. They said that we're going to go back to just caring about business and profits. It's like, well, you're a company. Why the fuck would you not do that in the first place? It's all you should care about.
Absolutely. I mean, why all these companies have to inject politics into their product line is so stupid. But it shows you the pressure of whoever is trying to influence society to go in that direction of DEI direction.
Do you think that I mean, the pandemic obviously fucked people up, but I think the pandemic also fucked companies up too, because companies sat around, they weren't doing well, sales were down, everything that they said, well, what can we do to get to more people? What can we do to affect change? And somehow, I mean, it's a squeaky wheel gets the grease because there aren't a lot of transgender people. There aren't a lot of people but they're really fucking vocal and they're really loud.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what COVID did. COVID certainly, impacted economically on a lot of small businesses in particular, but larger companies and corporations too. But I don't know if that. I don't think it's the COVID thing that made these companies go crazy. I think it's the DEI woke side of our society that was pushing this agenda, and if you want our money, if you want our tax breaks, if you want whatever, you need to toe this DEI party line and start getting a DEI consultant and hires and all that kind of crap.
Oh, so you think it's government influence because of the pressure they were putting on them.
I do think I do think it's the
That's
progressive
interesting. I like
government.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It can't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't just happen that these. No, I think it's the hard left progressive woke DEI attitude that
Yeah.
that put pressure on all the media companies and Nikes and all these other companies. This is the new rules. Get a DEI consultant, hire these
Yeah.
people, put white people on the back burner. Who gives a fuck about them? And this is what we're going to do now, and put it in people's faces, because by indoctrination and repetition, we will change minds. And they don't realize again how stupid that you don't change minds that way.
Didn't they start doing it in schools first by requiring a certain amount of black students, Asian students? Then you got to have transgender studies. You got to do all these things. I mean, I think it started in the universities where they started pushing this stuff, and then that sort of bled out into the corporate world.
Well, I used to think it started in the universities, but when you look at like people reading like gay and trans books to like 5-year-olds in kindergarten and
Yeah.
first grade, then you realize they've probably been doing this for a long time. We didn't know.
But do you really think people are buying those? I mean, really, what's the market for a 5-year-old transgender
No, it's not the buy.
female?
It's not. No, they're not going to be number one on the bestseller list. But when you got a captive audience of like 40 kids in a classroom, and you're
Yeah.
telling them, go gay, go trans, question your identity and your gender, and get angry at people who don't say he, she, it, me, 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 me. Yeah, these people, they. That's what you don't need a bestseller. All you need is a teacher saying we're normal, they're not.
I fucking hate it when I get an email, especially from somebody at a large corporation, where it's got their name, their title, and then their pronouns.
That is so ridiculous, and it needs to go out the window. We got to go back to reality, which is like
Yeah.
he said, she said, period. That's it.
Well, did
And
you
if you
see
want to
this?
do a dance in your bedroom or anywhere else, that's fine. But let's stick to the
No one gives a
rules.
shit.
Right? Nobody
You know
does.
what? If it's just it's like gay people, transgender people, if they just minded their own business, nobody would care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Nobody would care. I mean,
you
I have
know,
a transgender friend. I don't give a shit. He's a nice guy, girl, whatever. But it's like, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean I hate you. It
yeah,
just means
yeah.
I don't get it.
And just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that you have to force it into our lives and
Yeah.
insert it everywhere and push it in our face. Hey, do what you want to do, but don't do it in my backyard.
You know what bothers me more? If I'm friends with a couple and I know one of them is cheating and lying to their spouse, that would offend me more. That would be a reason for me not to be friends with somebody. If you're transgender, I don't give a shit. I'll be your friend. It doesn't make any difference to me.
That's the amazing thing about the media, and is that most people don't care. Most people aren't transphobic. Most people aren't racists. But it's the media and the political parties that have to attack each other and label.
But did you see this? I sent you this right before we started filming. Did you see the ads I sent you?
What ads? I mean, what were they promoting?
So the first one was what was it? Bath and Body, that they have this candle for the holidays, and the somehow somebody said from the way that it's designed, it looks like the KKK. And they posted one thing on Twitter, one thing on X, and it blew up, and it caused Bath and Body to apologize to everybody. And then I started looking that this happened to other people. This happened with Zara. Zara put a jacket out, had a jacket, and they did this ad that was very sort of stark and white and all that stuff. And they said, "Oh, you're making profit off the atrocities going on in Gaza." And then Marks and Spencer had a whole Christmas campaign with the woman from Ted Lasso, and they showed her putting red and green paper into the fireplace. They said those are the colors of the Palestinian flag, and there was a big uproar. And then Marks and Spencer ended up apologizing. It's
Apologize if you're using green and red wrapping Christmas colors.
and because they're throwing it into the fireplace,
Okay,
saying let's try something new, let's try some different colors this year.
Who are these people who
These are
like get so vocal and force everybody to give up?
It just takes one person to come up with this fucking crazy shit in their head, and then they have the power of the internet, of Twitter, of whatever it is, and people go nuts because it's something. Because people are, you know what? If you have that much time that you can pay attention to shit like this on Twitter, you fucking need to be doing something else.
Okay, so it's difficult because economics is involved, but really what these companies should have done was basically say, I'm sorry that you misinterpreted what our message was here. This was our message and purpose. And
Yeah.
sorry if you were offended, but we're selling cornflakes. Go away. These people are bullies, and you should get them to back off.
Well, I think it's such a stretch. You can read something into anything. If you try hard enough, you can read it into anything. And the fact that they allow themselves to be bullied, you're right. They should just say, you know what? It was just meant to be a holiday, cheerful kind of thing. Go fuck yourself and leave us alone. We're not changing it.
Yeah, yeah. And either you like our product or not, and we think it's a virtuous product, and so there it is. Buy it or not. But we're not going to say that we tried to hurt people's feelings or that we were insensitive when we weren't. We just made an ad.
And green and red are Christmas colors. So if you're throwing into a fireplace, you're just saying, well, let's try some different colors. Let's try some different cheer. How the fuck do you read that something into that?
Listen, I would have felt that they were anti-Christmas and gotten. That's not right.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
burning the colors.
you're burning Santa like it's Nazi Germany into the ovens. It's such bullshit. I mean, look, here, we just made up shit. Now we should
Okay,
go
so
to Mark Spencer.
but I think you bring the point up about, I think not only are teaching, but parents. Where are the parents? Well, shouldn't
Yeah.
they have taught their kids to like not be so reactive and sensitive and crazy about stuff that's, that they feel passionate about, but other people don't?
But this is what I said. It's the pussification of America. It's been going on for the last like 10, 15 years that we're raising, today's young people to be a bunch of big pussies that they can't have an opinion. You can't have an opinion. You can't think differently. You can't offend anybody because then you have to go, you're canceled.
And don't expect me to work a 5-day work week and go into the office.
Yeah. Well, remember we talked about that before in a previous show where somebody said that, well, I don't want to work as hard because I can't make a living and I can't afford things. But you know what? I think that your generation, my generation, even that maybe the generation that was below us, that we figured out how to make it work. We figured out how to make it happen. And it's like if you didn't have money for something, you figured out how to make the money. If you couldn't get a job, you figured out how to get a good job. I mean, there was some resourcefulness in what we did.
Resourcefulness is the key, and self-reliance and self-confidence. And we were taught the a work ethic. And also by the time we were 18, we still had a lot to learn about life, but
Yeah.
we knew that we had to take responsibility. We had to become adults now, and we had to like get a job and start working our way up to the kind of life that we wanted to have. They don't do that
But that's what I
anymore.
see now that a lot of 18-year-olds, I mean, even when they're 25, 26, 30 years old, they haven't grown up.
They still don't know what they want to do when they grow up. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's easier not to have to do anything and not to confront it than to actually, just bite the bullet and work really hard for 5, 10 years, whatever it is, to get ahead.
Years ago, we would call it infantilizing when
Yeah.
parents would allow their kids to stay kids and not really grow up. And we're doing it more than ever. I had a guy who sent his daughter to me, and she was 18 years old, and I had a relationship with her, and then he stepped in, and I said, "Hey, look, I'm glad to hear what you have to say about your daughter and her problem, but she's
Yeah.
my patient. She's an adult. She and I need to discuss the symptoms, side effects, etc., and we make the decisions." And he went crazy on me, and he said, "She's just a child. What's wrong with?"
Yeah.
I said, "She's not a child
Yeah.
in their heads."
But you know what? On the flip side, I have a friend that he's become a bit estranged with his daughter. I think the daughter's 17, and whatever the daughter told the therapist told the father, or told that, you know what, I'm going to run. Oh no, you know what? The therapist was dealing with both of them separately, and then he said, I'm going to tell your daughter everything that you told me. Basically, I'm going to sell you my private conversations with you in therapy. I'm going to tell your daughter to turn her against you.
A therapist said that?
A therapist said this. I
Oh,
said that therapist should be turned in and should be out of work.
totally should be right, decertified. And that is totally against the code of confidentiality and people feeling safe expressing their feelings to somebody. That she shouldn't even have taken on the two people in the first place. That's a conflict of interest.
But you know this. I mean, how many therapists are actually worthwhile? I think a lot of these people, they go to these bullshit schools. They're barely accredited, or they're accredited by, the Institute of Ballroom Dancing, some bullshit accreditation. And somehow these people are the ones that are giving people advice on how to live. They can't even fucking know how to live.
Yeah, they have no life experience at all and no real experience, clinical experience either. And particularly on the internet. I mean, I know people
Yeah.
who say, well, who say to me, well, I was talking to AI the other day, asked AI what I should do about my girlfriend. I mean, this is like pathetic. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way. Yeah, I mean, sure, AI can figure out certain things to say that make that are logical, but if a person is going to actually grow and learn and gain insight, there's a dynamic process that's necessary. But
Yeah.
people are so lazy too, I guess is my point is, they'll take like advice from anybody, no matter credentials or not. Like they got these life coaches now. Some of them may be fantastic, but a lot of
Yeah.
them just, decided I got to do something and
What's your take on people who have life coaches? They have vision boards. Is that all? To me, if you either have the drive or you don't. I don't know if having a vision board. I've always thought it was kind of silly.
Okay, well, I must say, the life coach thing, I question whether that's really helpful. It's good to have a therapist, I think,
Yeah.
to help you, but a life coach seems problematic because I don't think they have the training or experience or anything to do that. But what was the other thing you said? The
Or
not
like a vision board. If people
Oh
have
yeah,
these
the
vision
vision board.
boards.
The thing I was, if you don't go overboard on a vision board, there's a
Yeah.
premise here. The premise of a vision board is that your mind, if it creatively visualizes and affirms certain like outcomes that it would like to have, that the mind, some people believe the mind has creative power to attract and manifest these things that you keep in your mind.
Yeah.
So a vision board kind of does that. It's like I got all your dreams and fantasies and hopes and expectations, and I want money, I want happiness, I want this and that.
Isn't that what you
But
have a brain for?
well, it can help. Affirmations and visualizations can help, but people
Yeah.
go overboard and then it becomes just sheer magical thinking and it
Yeah.
doesn't work. Yeah.
Well, so you have a vision board, you go, I dream of having whatever, a yacht or this or that. But if you don't do anything, it doesn't matter. It just becomes a fantasy board.
Well, that's absolutely right. Of course, someone's not going to knock on your door and say, "Oh, here's the keys to the yacht." No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. It's the expression "God helps those who help themselves" in a way,
Uh,
or the creative energy of the universe will help you if you help yourself. You can't just like try to imagine and visualize magically that things are going to appear. You have to work for it all the same. But
I've always
it might increase your motivation and drive and
yeah.
whatever if you have these reminders that I want to be successful, I want to do this, I want to have that.
But I've always said people should know their limitations and children should be taught, you know what, you cannot be anything you want to be. Life doesn't work that way. It's okay to understand and know what your limitations are.
Okay, but keep in mind that Kamala is now proving that anybody can become president.
Yeah, but you know what? If I came to you next week and I said, Walter, I've changed my mind. I'm going to throw out my entire career because I want to become a world-class ballerina. You'd say, you know what? Rip up your vision board.
I totally agreed. I didn't mean to jump on that. I just had the idea to make that joke, but I
Yeah.
agree that people should recognize on one level, you don't want to recognize limitations and you want to go for the gold. But on another level, you have to, if you do go for the gold, you have to accept, you know what, I'm not really in that wheelhouse. And I think the acceptance will help you then to find a specialty you actually may have or not.
Is there anything that you wanted to do that you haven't done?
Oh boy, I can't. No, I don't think so. I'm
Yeah.
happy with my life.
Yeah. I think that's and see, and I think that that young people today, they don't even think that way. They don't think about a life, a career. I mean, we always thought about you want to have a good paying job, you want to have a house, you want to get married, you want to have kids, you want to do all this stuff. It doesn't always work out. You sort of go with what life gives you. But the fact is, at least we thought about these things and we strive to have these things, and they don't have that anymore. And these vision boards are all bullshit, especially for the people that put the yacht or the $40 million home on it. It's all bullshit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. People are desperate to succeed, and so they oftentimes do fall prey to all of these astrologists and all sorts of stuff that
Yeah.
are kind of magical. Yeah, but people should try to accept their limitations and find what they can do best. And hopefully there are those things.
Well, I'm going to go to the psychic eye this week,
Okay.
and I'm going to envision what our topics are for next week's show.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
As
Are we
always,
done? Are we out of time?
we're out of time.
Okay. Well, man, it was good talking to you.
Good talking to you. For Walter Jacobson, I'm Derek Christopher. This has been Brain Wrestling, and we'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.
I don't know what they have to say. It makes no difference anyway. Whatever it is, I'm against it. No matter what it is or who commenced it, I'm against it.